if, for example, someone is getting into an IIT Bombay or an IIM Ahmedabad, no matter what idea you have, please finish your course. That tag will hold you for life. That institute will open doorways which you don't know what it will do, and not just today, it will open 30 years later.
So hi guys, welcome to Strolling Wise Minds. This is episode 7. Today probably I've got the most accomplished guest till now in my podcast, and my life feels like a complete story now. So today I have Mr. Sandeep Das. He is a director at PwC, and he has had a winner's life, I guess. So he's an MBA from IIM Bangalore, and he's worked for multiple consulting firms like Accenture and PwC, and yeah. So let's invite him. Let's not really waste any time by listening to me till now. Hello, sir.
Thank
Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I am good, yeah. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the generous introduction. And if your guests are listening to it today, wish them a happy new year.
Okay, happy New Year to everyone from my side too. So, sir, I've came up with a few questions because okay. Once the first thing is you all might be wondering why have I brought this person? Why such a great personality has came to my channel? So that's the question. So I read a book recently, and this was suggested by one of my friends in IIM Bangalore. He's a current student in IIM Bangalore. He suggested me a book called Hacks and yeah. This book. The book is called Hacks for Life and Career: A Millennial's Guide to Make It Big. So I was reading this book and I just found the author's name. I texted sir on LinkedIn. So he was generous enough to reply and come for this podcast and talk about why everyone should read this book. It was like I found it very enthralling, and I felt it was very insightful. Why a 20 everything a 20-year-old should know. It was in that book. So the first thing came to my mind. I prepared a few set of questions to let you go through this book, and at the end we'll ask, sir, why should a 20-year-old read this book? Of course, a 25-year might be reading this book, but why should a 20-year-old read this book? So we'll start with the questions. First of all, sir, how was your experience after like when it came to your mind, like I should do an MBA, and you went to IIM Bangalore? How was it like 10 years back or something?
So I went to IIM Bangalore during 2007 to 2009, and the entire stereotype you have with an IIM is true. It's a strong brand. You meet some smart people. It's fairly competitive, but we have a lot of fun. I think the big takeaways what the institute taught me was one that one person can literally do everything in that 24 hours. So I mean, I have a full-fledged job. I write, I speak. I have 3 books now. I run 10-12 kilometers a day, and I think a lot of that thinking was ingrained in IIM Bangalore. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I had from the institute. That one person, they just teach you. The system teaches you that you learn to manage everything. I think that's one big takeaway. Obviously, the network is good. The brand is phenomenal. The professors are kind. I'm still in touch with a lot of them. So I think overall it was a very good experience. 3 Idiots was shot during my time, so it was a bonus in terms of the stay. But overall, in terms of what you would expect from an IIM.
That's great. So how was like meeting with Amir Khan and all the cast, and how was that experience?
It was nice. It was nice. It's the first time, at least I was ever seeing a movie crew like that. Amir Khan moving around, Kareena Kapoor moving around, Madhavan moving around like normal people. And I think they were very regular, very normal. It was good to see shooting like that. None of us have ever seen it. Sure. And it was a very good movie. So I think it was a lot of fun being there.
Sure. So the next thing I wanted to ask is, whenever MBA comes to mind, there's a lot of buzz around this particular word called work experience. MBA schools give it a lot of preference, and everyone gives a lot of preference. But my question is, since I am a computer science engineering student, so there are multiple theories to that, multiple versions to that, because generally people do get placed as a software development engineer in maybe Amazon, probably working as in the production side of things. So after an MBA, there's things like marketing, consulting come into play, so if I have a development work ex, so will it be relevant for my consulting job? And if not, then why would go for a work ex? Why not go as an MBA, so as a fresher? So, and if I'm a fresher, do I have the required amount of maturity in my life to handle a B school pressure, handle that rigor in my life? So what is your take on that one? What should be one strategy as a 20-year-old fresh graduate in third year?
So this question's asked to me at a lot of webinars I gave at the various IITs, and my take has always been this: that first you have to make up your mind if you want to do an Indian MBA or an international MBA. If you want to do an international MBA, the WorkX is a must. 4 to 5 years is a must, and whatever WorkX you get, whether it is software development, testing, or a business role, try and show maximum impact. So that's question one. If you're looking to do an Indian MBA, in my view, the earlier you do it, the better it is. Except an ISB, the rest of the IITs and the other top 15, 20 institutes, the earlier you do it, the better it is my view. So if students like yours, batchmates like of yours who are passing out of undergrad, they should keep giving CAT. And the first good institute they get, as soon as possible, they should take it. The reason I say that, because even if you see the IIM curriculum right now, actually, if you're a fresher, I think you are better inclined to do well. There is a certain amount of academic rigor. You are still in that study mode. It needs a certain amount of hard work. So honestly, your batchmates are just 1 or 2 years more of WorkX, which is not really a lot of WorkX in terms of what they will add to the class. So if you are, I think you should do it earlier as possible if you plan to do it in India. That's my take.
Sure, sir. So the next thing which comes to my mind while I was reading the book, and you also mentioned in a lot of places, that 90% of our current graduates are not ready for the professional or maybe personal maturity, or maybe that they're not very employable, or they're more likely not to do good in the industry or maybe in their professional lives. The reason is our academic or education institutions haven't paid that much attention to all the aspects of a individual's personality. So if it's not the case, then why do we have such buzz around getting to the top, into a structured paradigm of education, I must say. So getting into MBA course, while I was listening to a talk by Rakesh Goswami 6 months back, he talked about this a lot of times, learned with the school of life theory, learn through that theory. So what do you think is most preferred for a person who has just completed his graduation, maybe failed with a couple of startup ideas or done a few internships and done something in his life? So should he go for an MBA? That is a more trusted and paradigm of learning, or maybe he should learn with the school of life theory. What is your take on that?
It's a very good question. I know Rakesh for a long time. I know Rakesh for the last 10 years, and my personal experience is that what you learn from your own experience in real life is more valuable. The academics is important and the rigor is important, but if I have to put a percent, it has to be 90% the actual hard reality and 10% some form of academic standing. So that is what is important in terms of where you will learn from. To answer your question in terms of the MBA, there is a lot of benefits an MBA does, and it's honestly not just about the courses, whether it's the brand, the network, getting fit into a high pressure situation, communication skills. A lot of those skills are useful in life, whether you're pitching to a VC or an entrepreneur, any of that. So an MBA often helps, but even within an MBA, I think to get the maximum value out of the MBA, I think the real benefit is actually outside the classroom. And if for all your audience members who are going to an MBA, and it's a chapter I cover in my book, the real value add you will get in an IIM is actually outside the classroom and what you learn outside of it. I think that's how you have to look at it.
Sure, sir. That's a way to look at it. And when I was reading the book, I found it was a crash course to MBA. There were 20 to 25 concepts you said are important for a person to know in his life. So yeah, that's a way to look at it. So the next thing I wanted to ask is, there's a chapter I remember I told you, chapter 21, called the Why Entrepreneurs Fail. So I was having this question with my peers or maybe with my seniors for a very long time. It's something works in Silicon Valley, something works in China. It's bound to get implemented or copied in India in a couple of years. It's becoming a trend. There's a lot of examples for that. I'll not like to name anyone. Somehow Uber worked, a couple of other companies worked. It's not necessary that all the ideas are going to work. And so this is becoming a trend, maybe to the people who are comparatively new to the industry. They haven't had so much experience with what will work, haven't had so much interactions with the angel investors, VCs and all. They just have the money somehow, maybe from his parents or something like that. They start the business. That's often the case. So what amount of awareness or maturity or maybe education is lacking in such entrepreneurs or maybe young people who go and who set out on such risky ventures? And how should one stop it, or maybe is it even necessary to stop it? So that's the reason.
Yeah. It's a very good question, and if you're referring to chapter 21, and there are 10 things why I say typically entrepreneurs fail, and the first most important is that it's a bad idea. First of all, that's the reason most entrepreneurs. And what you mean by a bad idea is it has to solve a genuine pain point. So typical pain points are either convenience, what say a Uber does, or standardization, what a big basket does, or just good pricing, which is say an Amazon. So unless it is solving a genuine pain point, a copy paste of an idea from US or China will not work. And entrepreneurs have to, all young entrepreneurs have to look at that you have to really figure out what is the pain point I'm solving. Pain points are typically, like I said, standardization, pricing, range, convenience, quality of service. These typical pain points which you're trying to solve. If you are not solving any of these, people are not going to pay for it. It doesn't matter who's backing. So I think that's the first thing entrepreneurs have to look at. And the second thing, there are other aspects I refer to in that chapter you were referring to, in terms of, have they got the team right? Have they got something called unit economics right? I mean, will you ever make money at a per customer level? Have you figured out that? How is the competition? How is your experience? So a lot of that. But unless, I think the first thing is you have to solve for a particular pain point. And if you can't do that, it doesn't matter where the idea is coming from.
Okay, sure. So that's a great perspective to look at this. When I read, like I see Gary Vee, videos of Gary Vee, or maybe other influencers, like business influencers, they're very adamant on this fact that just leave school, just leave college, just be a dropout right today, and you'll be successful in life. But yeah, you have to look for the context. Like we're talking about the American context, and it's very normal to leave college over there, but it's not so normal in India. So my next question is, sir, when we look for an idea, when somebody as a young entrepreneur maybe has failed with a couple of ideas that he told, looks for an idea, he looks for the maximum turnover, he looks for the economic side of it. He never looks for the how other consumers, like you mentioned, the pain point, how the consumer is going to get benefit from that. And in that rush, that's the only thing people focus upon in entrepreneurship maybe these days, is money. So, and when the money comes to them, they don't know how to find manage it. And since you told, like, not just the freshers or maybe people who are young, people after MBA, like they're probably managing portfolios of thousands of crores of rupees, and they do not know how to manage their own money. How important is personal finance at such point of, maybe any point of your life? How important is personal finance, managing your own money? Yes.
I think it's a very good question, and in my opinion, the single biggest problem, not just for people in undergraduates, postgraduates, people with WorkX, is the lack of knowledge of personal finance. They just don't know what to do with their money. Now, why is this important? Is you have to understand that for all of us, the more money we all have in the bank, the better we will all sleep at night, and the more risk we can take in our careers. So unless we know what to do with our own money, it's a huge problem all of us have, and it's never taught. It's never taught in business school. It's never taught in undergraduates. There's not enough literature. The amount of literature you have is not customized to India, and that's when I had the section on the section 3, which was on personal finance, to look at where can you invest your money and what should be an ideal portfolio statement. And I think it's very, very important because I've also seen a lot of batchmates of mine, friends of mine, passing out from the best of IIMs. Like you mentioned, they're working in large investment banks. They don't know what to do with their own money. They're flush with funds, and it's a colossal problem which needs to be addressed. So I've tried to make an attempt, and let's see. Hopefully, readers will like it.
Sure. So that's we can go with that theory also. Okay, so the next question is, as I mentioned in the previous question, and we left this fact, I would like to come back on that fact that it's a very general trend in USA or maybe in other tier 1 countries, first world countries, probably the right word for that, to leave college or maybe to leave education, because they're lessening their trust in the very robust and structural paradigm of learning, that get into college and get into post-college and learning through jobs. They're more adamant towards learning through their own personal experiences, and that is what is being portrayed in their cinema, their literature, and their influences as well. So how adequate this theory is in general context, or maybe in Indian context for now? People in India also copying that. Whatever happened in the US starts to happen in India. That's the general trend. How right or adequate or maybe effective this theory is? How do you think it is currently?
I think it's completely wrong in the Indian context. I could not be so sure about this. See, if, for example, someone is getting into an IIT Bombay or an IIM Ahmedabad, no matter what idea you have, please finish your course. That tag will hold you for life. That That institute will open doorways which you don't know what it will do, and not just today, it will open 30 years later. So no matter what idea you have, please do it in parallel. Definitely do not drop out of a top educational institution. I think that idea is suicidal. You have to understand American context is very different. Indian context is very different. They don't have the kind of competition we do. They have a lot more opportunities than we do. So for all your audience members, if you're getting a good education, please finish it. If you have a idea, please do it in parallel. And a lot of IITs and IIMs today actually accept entrepreneurial projects as electives. They have figured out a way to bring it into a part of the main curriculum. So please do it. That's point number one. Point number two, I think there's a lot of, in a way, a false glamour attached to entrepreneurship. But what everybody has to understand is that 99% of ventures actually fail. It's only 1% of the ventures that really succeed. So for one example of the Bansal brothers of Flipkart, you will have probably 10,000 e-commerce nano platforms which actually failed. So 99% of platforms actually fail. And even the 1% that succeeds goes through immense hardship, struggle, failure for 10 years and 15 years, and finally then they start. I mean, it took the Bansals a lot of money, a lot of time in fact, to sell off the stake. After 12-13 years is when they made money. So it's a very difficult journey. It is glamorous, it is rewarding, but it is very, very difficult. So I would strongly urge each of your audience members to please finish your education and then pursue this if you really want to.
Sure, sir. Since you gave a lot of insights, I remember, and I would like to take a reference from a chapter of yours. Why should you read business books? That was in the last section. So when we read such stuff, we get the time to read this in college. When we are not in college, we have under a lot of pressure to earn money, to give it back to our family, and we can do this in college. Like I can do this stuff in college. If I'm not in college, I would not be able to talk to you right now. So yeah, that's a way to look at it. And talking about reading, and the last section, I would like to bring in the last question also. That is, how important, I was reading a Forbes article that said self-help books currently are not that helpful, or maybe probably useless, some of them. And maybe this is the reason, and this idea floats around in the market, is that a lot of less helpful facts, and not say crap ideas, less helpful facts are being sold in the name of esoteric literature. You won't understand. It's like you won't understand. If you're not able to understand, people follow those things under peer pressure right now. Self-help books. So what do you think, what amount or what quality of peer or of self-help is required for a 20-21-year-old who has just finished his graduation, or maybe about to finish his graduation? What amount of self-help is required, and how should he access it? What should be the way?
Yeah. So I think, there is a lot of noise around. To your earlier question on a lot of self-help is around. So it is like rom-com movies. Bollywood makes 1,000 rom-com movies every year, but 5 or 10 are really good. And that is exactly how self-help and most literature is. There's a lot of literature, but you need to figure out which is the right one for you. For a 20-year-old, I think there's a lot of learning they can get from reading biographies of great businessmen. They can see documentaries of great sportsmen. For some of your readers, there is this major documentary on Michael Jordan called The Last Dance that is going around in Netflix, a 9.2 on IMDb. It's a fascinating story on how one basketball player for 10 years kept fighting every day despite all the odds, didn't have bad habits, stood for his virtue. And those are stories which I think college students should read about. Or for example, there is a documentary that is coming up on Tiger Woods, in terms of how the guy rose and how the guy fell, the mistakes he made. I think these stories are very, very important for 20-21-year-olds. So the point I'm trying to make is it doesn't need to be literature. It can be even movies, it can be documentaries, but learnings from others' careers, especially people like Dhoni, people like Michael Jordan, even Tiger Woods, is really, really helpful. And I have personally believed that there is a lot of good self-help literature. You should definitely pick up a few books. It'll give you a lot of clarity and perspective. I think the biggest benefit with self-help books do is they cut through the noise and just try to simplify your life. I think that's the big thing they try to do, because there's so much noise going around that they just say, do these two things and hopefully it'll work out. I remember 10 years back, I read a book called The 5 a.m. Club. If I'm not mistaken, I think Robin Sharma, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a very nice book in terms of how getting up early will actually improve the quality of your life. It has helped with me at least. So I think there's a lot of good self-help literature. people should read the books which are trending, but I personally also think people should look at a lot of sports documentaries.
Sure, sir. Then, before coming to the epilogue of the podcast, I would like to push around the fact that how has been the journey till now? Since why, like when you left your development in job in Oracle, you went for an MBA, and then you went for consulting. So, and I was seeing one of your videos. You mentioned something called a primary career and a secondary career. So, how helpful do you think, and how relevant would be this in a decade or so? Because currently, it might be relevant for you. And do you think the trend might be decreasing or increasing in the coming decades? What's going to be like primary career and secondary career?
That's a very good question. So when I was actually interviewing 250, 300 people like you, Gen Z and millennials for my book, one of the things that came about is this decade, one of the big things is going to be that people will have multiple careers, a primary career, a secondary career. Someone like you, for example, you will probably have a normal job and you do this in parallel. You try to build a channel, a network. So it's going to be very, very common. So I think it will be the norm more than the exception that everybody will have two careers. And over a period of time, you will see most people will try to push their secondary career ahead of their primary career. Once the secondary career, which I'm assuming even someone like you must be planning once your secondary career is set up fully. So it's a big trend. And the reason you have to understand why this happens is most millennials and Gen Z people like you, they will actually not get their full satisfaction from work. The work will be important because it gives you money, it gives you status, but it doesn't fulfill all your needs of either creativity or running or passion. And for that, you will need a full-fledged secondary career that will be there. So it's a big trend coming up. And over a period of time, you will see secondary will start taking primary.
So the first career maybe is for the auntie, as you mentioned in the book. Pleasing the auntie. So and second career is pleasing
exactly.
Yeah, pleasing your soul maybe.
Yes.
So it brings me to another question, that how important currently is spirituality. Like spirituality is a term being referred to 27, 28, like bare biceps right now, or maybe great Joe Rogan, etc. They're mentioning spirituality. So what can we do in our undergrads or maybe in our college when we are around in this dilemma of doing what should we go for an MBA, MTech, or maybe a job, or maybe a startup? What should we go? What amount of spirituality should we have, or maybe we practice, so that we could get our own clarity in life, our own way? We shouldn't be lost, and we get the advantages of spirituality, not being fully involved in it. So yeah.
When you are 17, 18, 19, please stay away from stuff like spirituality. Okay. Focus on your lives. And one of the big pieces of advice, I also, when I speak at a lot of these undergrad colleges also, is say that in undergrad, sometimes the best advice is just follow the crowd. Bunk a few classes, have fun with friends. There's the remaining part of life to go around. Don't worry too much about where will my life go, what career path it will take. There are enough years you have ahead. So sometimes just follow the crowd, hang out. What is important, and more than spirituality, is have a set of value systems, exactly. In terms of what is right and what is wrong. So things like, I will not rag a junior no matter what, is a big value system. I will not tease someone is a big value system. I will respect all my teachers irrespective of whether I attend their class or not, is a big value system. So have a set of these value systems. Some people call this spirituality only, in terms of what you will do. I will not take advantage of a junior just because I can in the hostel. So I think these few value systems, if you have and are true to yourself, I think that is enough you can get from an undergrad. Don't worry about the rest. Sometimes the best advice is just to follow your seniors, just to follow the crowd. There's enough portion of your life left to worry about the rest.
That's a great perspective, because you don't actually have to stand out every single time. People doing certain things because they are necessary. A lot of people are doing. So how peer pressure is good. The advantages of peer pressure. So that's the way to look at it. Now, sir, all my questions are over. Now I have read the book. I found it really enthralling and useful. When you were writing the book, and you've written the book right now, you're promoting it, talk to a lot more people right now. How do you think a guy should use this book? Maybe a 21, 22-year-old who about to enter his MBA, maybe has took admission in his MBA right now. How do you think that person should use this book?
Yeah, so I think it's a very good question. First of all, the response has been, so when I interviewed about 250, 300 people, there are certain skill sets, gaps I had identified, and now that I'm promoting, I realized the gap is probably a lot more than what I'd initially thought. So one, the response of the book has been very good. It's number 1 on the Amazon hot trending list, number 2 in the Amazon business bestsellers list. You would have seen all this in my social media. I think if you are a 20-year-old and if you're going to look at this book, what you should do it is read all the chapters. Now, a lot of it, so read chapters. There are certain sections that will definitely appeal to you, whether it's the technology section, whether it's the 20 business concepts you need to know, entrepreneurship, personal finance. Out of the 9 sections, 5 will definitely appeal to you. And the way you read this book is, if you're a 20-year-old, it's about 60 chapters. At the end of 60 chapters, just ask yourself, what are the 3 takeaways I have from this chapter? Just 3. The book is designed to have a lot more, but 3 top takeaways in your mind, and just write that down. Once you finish the book, you'll be left with 200 takeaways, because it has 60 chapters, 60 into 3 of roughly 200. And if you can remember those 200 takeaways, I think you have done a great service to your individual self. That's how I think a 20-year-old should read this book. It is a wisdom of knowledge. It is a lot of knowledge. It's a lot of research. There are thousands of people and thousands of experience that have gone into it. So look at it that way. Try to take out 3 insights per chapter, and I think you'll get your money's worth.
Sure, sir. No, just don't download it through torrent. Get your money's worth. Just spend the money for it. So yeah, that's my question, sir. We came to the end of the podcast. How was the experience in this podcast? I fumbled a few times, I know, but how was your experience?
No, I really liked it. Yeah, I think your questions are very good. I think the podcast should do very well when you load it, because I think a lot of the questions were very, very smart. I mean, a lot of people are thinking of that. So the questions were good. I think it should do very well.
Sure, sir. We'll wrap this podcast for now. Please, if you can say the drill, like, share, and subscribe, because people don't usually do that for a 20-year-old.
So, as we finish this podcast, first of all, thank you, Kanish, for inviting me. I had a great time on this podcast. I think some of the questions were very intriguing. And to all members of this audience, please do like and subscribe to this channel. I think Kanish produces fantastic content and it's useful for all of you. So please do like and press the bell button below.
Thanks a lot, sir. We'll wrap up. Okay. Thanks. Back up, sir. Okay.